All right, we're on page 26, top of page 26. Okay, a certain American businessman had ability, good sense, and high character. For years, he'd floundered from one sanitarium to another. He had consulted the best known American psychiatrist, then he had gone to Europe, placing himself in the care of a celebrated physician, the psychiatrist Dr. Young. This is Roland. That's got to be Roland, yeah. Who prescribed for him. Though experience had made him skeptical, he finished his treatment with unusual confidence. His physical and mental condition were unusually good. Above all, he believed he had acquired such a profound knowledge of the inner workings of his mind and its hidden springs that relapse was unthinkable. Nevertheless, he was drunk in a short time. More baffling still, he could give himself no satisfactory explanation for his fall. So Roland went to Dr. Young, and then after he sobered up, he went to Oxford, where he met Ebby Thatcher, or he found Ebby Thatcher. I think he brought Ebby Thatcher into Oxford, and then Ebby Thatcher found Bill W. So this is how Dr. Young is connected to Dr. Silkworth in the Towns Hospital in New York. So in the beginning of this paragraph, they want to tell you, and they want to make sure that the very first sentence of the paragraph is the most important sentence. They're telling you that this is an American businessman, that he was able, intelligent, he had moral values, he was, he was successful, and despite all that, he still had issues, some mental issues. And back then, the sanitarium was a mental institution. That's where they put drunks. So when it's saying that he floundered from one sanitarium to another, they're saying that he had gone from one place to another to find the solution to help him stop drinking. Then finally, he obviously had the money. And then finally, he goes to Europe and puts himself under the care of this famous psychiatrist, probably the best psychiatrist of his day. And his works are still being studied, right? I'm sure that cost him a lot of money. And then he prescribed medication for him. And even though in the past his experiences with medication and psychiatry weren't successful, so that made him skeptical. So he questioned it. He didn't have a lot of hope and faith in it. He knew that he was physically well and mentally, were, how do you say, above average for a practicing alcoholic. And he really believed that he really believed that if he could figure out the secret, okay, he could figure out the secret of what the problem was, he could figure out the problem and the solution, then he could figure out his brain, then he could stop himself that way. Then that way, he knew so much about himself, there's no way he could possibly relapse. Profound is very great or intense, having or showing. great knowledge or insight. And he was still drunk in a short amount of time. And then more baffling is impossible to understand. He could give himself no satisfactory explanation for his fall. There's no reason. Okay, he knew the problems, he knew the solution, he knew all his triggers, he knew all. He did all his relapse paperwork. He knew what his relapse triggers were. He knew everything, and he still got drunk. So we know that self-knowledge won't fix it. So he returned to this doctor, Carl Jung, whom he admired, he respected him, and asked him point blank why he could not recover. He just asked him bluntly, why can't I recover? He wished above all things to regain self-control. He seemed quite rational, well balanced with respect to other problems, yet he had no control whatever over alcohol. Why was this? So he he was able to regulate his behavior and his emotions. He was logical, intelligent. He was emotionally stable everywhere in his entire life except for alcohol. Pardon me. Turn this down. Oh my God. Ah, sorry, this is important. Okay. And so he wanted to know why. He really seriously wanted to know why. Inner workings are the parts that are only known by people who work on it. So he knew the inner workings of his mind. He begged the doctor to tell him the whole truth. I think he probably felt like maybe the doctor was not telling him something because obviously he was still getting drunk and couldn't figure out why. Okay, and so he got it. And so the doctor told him the truth. Dr. Jung, the most famous psychiatrist probably in the entire world, told him, in the doctor's judgment, he was utterly hopeless. He could never regain his position in society, and he would have to place himself under lock and key or hire a bodyguard if he expected to live long. This was a great physician's opinion. There would he back then they didn't have any they didn't have the kind of medications they have now. They didn't have the kind of therapies that they have now. They didn't have DBT. They didn't have EMDR. I don't think they had any of that. And so that was all that he had left to suggest. It's. And then that's all the solution they had was to lock yourself up. There was a point in time in my life where I asked my at the time husband to lock me up and not let me go get any alcohol, and he wouldn't do it. But this man still lives and is a free man. He does not need a bodyguard, nor is he confined. He can go anywhere on this earth where other free men may go. Dr. Jung emphasized the importance of personal religious experiences over dogma or belief systems. Religion is a tool for maintaining mental health, according to Dr. Jung. Okay, he can go anywhere on this earth where other free men may go without disaster, provided he remains willing to maintain a certain simple attitude. HOW, honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. Some of our alcoholic readers may think they can do without spiritual help, spiritual guidance, faith counseling, a mentor, without any kind of preacher or anybody talking to them about God at all, because we have spiritual pride. We don't want anyone to tell us about God, but we need it. Some of our readers may think they can do without spiritual help. Let us tell you the rest of the conversation our friend had with this doctor. The doctor said, "You have the mind of a chronic alcoholic. I have never seen one single case recover where that state of mind existed to the extent that it does in you." Our friend felt as though the gates of hell had closed on him with a clang. A chronic alcoholic occurring for over a long period of time. He pulled the rug out from underneath him. He left him with no hope. There was no more hope left. He tried everything that he knew how to try, and it didn't work. And that was his last and final opinion. He said to the doctor, "Is there no exception?" "Well, yes," replied the doctor, "there is exceptions to cases such as yours have been occurring since early times. Here and there, once in a while, alcoholics have had what are called vital spiritual experiences. To me, these occurrences are phenomena. They appear to be in the nature of huge emotional displacements and rearrangements. Ideas, emotions, and attitudes which were once the guiding forces of the lives of these men are suddenly cast to one side, and a completely new set of conceptions and motives begin to dominate them. A phenomena is a rare occurrence, rarely every once in a great while. Back then, there would be a shift in a human. Their emotions would change. It would be an emotional shift. That's what an emotional displacement is. They started feeling different and thinking different and acting different. Their attitude was different. Suddenly. Excuse me. A rare unexplained occurrence would suddenly happen. Back then, today it's more a gradual process. But back then it was sudden, where they would take in a complete about face. They would think different, act different, talk different, behave different, feel different. They just did opposite of everything. So I think some of them maybe figured it out. You have to do the opposite of what you used to be. You have to be a completely new person. Suddenly cast to one side, and a completely new set of ideas and reasons began to be the most important thing to them. Their purpose, what was important to them, changed. Like when you change your focus. In fact, I've been trying to produce some such emotional rearrangement within you. With many individuals, the methods which I employed are successful, but I've never been successful with an alcoholic of your description. So Dr. Young was able to produce the emotional rearrangements by certain techniques which he used in other individuals that didn't have the same ingrained way of thinking that this certain businessman had, which I really think is brilliant. Upon hearing this, our friend was somewhat relieved, for he reflected that After all, he was a good church member. Oh, he's talking about when they have vital spiritual experiences. So he explained to him what a spiritual experience was. And that's when he got a little bit of hope. He said, after all, he thought he was a good church member. This hope, however, was destroyed by the doctors telling him that while his religious convictions were very good, in his case, they did not spell the necessary vital spiritual experience. So, religion is not the same, we know now, as a spiritual experience. Spiritual, I guess for me, the difference between religion and spirituality is religion is rules and spirituality is a personal connection to God. Emotional displacement, a defense mechanism in which a person redirects an emotional reaction from the rightful recipient onto another person. Oh, that ain't what it meant. That's not what emotional displacement. Okay. A profound encounter with God. Personal, transformative, life changing. Page 28. Here was the terrible dilemma in which our friend found himself when he had the extraordinary experience, which, as we've already told you, made him a free man. So his dilemma on page 25. The dilemma is on the bottom of page 25 to go on to the bitter end, blotting out the consciousness of our intolerable situation as best we can, and or to accept spiritual help. That's what we get. We're either gonna continue on the way we are and try not to think about it, or we're gonna accept spiritual help. That's what it's saying. Dilemma is a situation in which a difficult choice has to be made between two or more alternatives, especially equally undesirable ones. So nobody wants to be a practicing alcoholic or addict, and some of those same people have just the same amount of aversion, same level as aversion to seeking spiritual help from another human being. And possibly the reason is because a lot of us have been hurt by people in the church and supposedly good people that were not, that were, in fact, I don't really know anyone who's been hurt by the church as much as I have been personally. I mean, I've seen on the news other people that have been hurt worse than me, and I've never shared my story, but I have been hurt by the church in a very profound way. Maybe someday I'll share my story. I don't know. It's pretty bad. So accepting spiritual help, you know, some of us can't go to if you were ever abused by someone in the church, it's going to be really hard to go to the church to get help. So, that's why a lot of people will turn to a different religion or different type of spirituality, whatever it takes to start. Do that. Gift of restoration. Gift of restoration. Desperation. Page 29. Oh. He got the gift of desperation. Or we in our turn sought the same escape with all the desperation of drowning men. What seemed at first to be a flimsy reed has proved to be the loving and powerful hand of God. A new life has been given us, or if you prefer, a design for living. that really works. The design for living is the steps in action. That's what AA is talking about. That's what AA is promoting. The distinguished American psychologist William James, in his book Varieties of Religious Experiences, indicates a multitude of ways in which men have discovered God, a personal relationship. We have no desire to convince anyone there's only one way by which faith can be acquired. If what we have learned and felt and seen means anything at all, means that all of us, whatever our race, creed, or color, are the children of a living creator with whom we may form a relationship upon simple and understandable terms as soon as we are willing and honest enough to try. Simple and understandable terms. As soon as we're willing and honest enough to try. Those having religious affiliations will find here nothing disturbing to their beliefs or ceremonies. There is no friction among us over such matters. There's no conflict within AA over denomination. There's no conflict, and there should not be, and there's not within Alcoholics Anonymous. That doesn't mean that some of the people aren't that way, but there is no conflict on how a person is supposed to worship God, and there shouldn't be. You worship God the way you worship God, no one can tell you how. This should be an entirely personal affair with which each one decides for himself in the light of past associations or his present choice. Not all of us join religious bodies, but most of us favor such memberships. So you got to figure out for yourself based on your past and your present. In the following chapter, there appears an explanation of alcoholism as we understand it, then a chapter addressed to the agnostic. Many who once were in this class are now among our members, the agnostics. Surprisingly enough, we find that find such convictions no great obstacle to a spiritual experience. Whatever your belief system is not an obstacle to having a spiritual awakening by following the 12 steps. Further on, clear-cut directions are given showing how we recovered, which are the steps. These are followed by 42 personal experiences, which are the stories at the back of the book. Each individual in the personal stories describes in his own language and from his own point of view the way he established his relationship to God. So establishing a relationship to God in order to affect a spiritual awakening, and the spiritual awakening will remove the desire for alcohol. These give a fair cross section of our membership and a clear cut idea of what has actually happened in their lives. Page 45 is the main object of this book. What is the main object of this book? Page 45. Main object of this book. Okay. Its main object is to enable you to find a power greater than yourself which will solve your drink problem. That's the main object of this book. We hope no one will consider these self-revealing accounts in bad taste. Our hope is that many alcoholic men and women desperately in need will see these pages, and we believe that it's only by fully disclosing ourselves and our problems that they will be persuaded to say, yes, I am one of them too. I must have this thing. So we're not, we're coming clean, and we're not telling anybody anything about themselves. But if I'm taking my inventory, then if I'm healed from something, then I'm capable of sharing it without it affecting me. And when I share my weaknesses and my scars in front of other people, then they can either relate to that or not. So we bare our souls and we bond through the solving of common problems. We show each other how we show each other how that we take our own inventory. So we do. So we're going to start on more about alcoholism next. Sorry I have been gone. Life happens. Blessings to everyone who's on this journey. If you need any help, go ahead and send a message. Reach out to me. I'll help you however I can. Never give up.